Today I'm hanging a Phillip Jeffries product. This is a natural product. It comes from the earth. And what you're looking at is actually a veneer of a flower, a hyacinth. And so I'm going to show you some techniques that have to be followed when hanging this particular product. Let's first start by saying that this is a glue the product wall covering. So we're going to be gluing the backing. And unlike most every other wall covering, we're going to wait until the glue is actually more than 50% dry on the back. Okay? This is our wall. Where do you start hanging the paper? Our wall is 234 inches wide. Half of 234 brings us to 117. That line represents the middle between the left and the right. The only other consideration is, do I start my wallpaper in the middle of the wall covering, if this were my wallpaper? Or is it better that I start each sheet from the middle on either side of my central point? What would determine that? There's only one consideration. It's not what the customer wants. It's not what you think is best. It's not a guess. It's simply this. When you choose either one, and you should work out both, you want to go like this with your either a tape measure, simulating the width of your wall covering, or the wall covering itself, and you go like this, over to the edge, all the way, and you determine whether or not you achieve a better symmetry with either this much of your last sheet left, or you may wind up with something like this, which is what you don't want. So depending on where you start in the middle, will determine how the end sheets look. In either case, you'll have symmetry. However, do you want symmetry that leaves you with a 2-inch piece at the end? Or would you rather symmetry that leaves you with a 12-inch piece? This is what you want. You desire to achieve the symmetrical result that will give you the largest piece of wall covering at the end. Now, I wanted to show you a test on getting glue and water on this product, okay? It has a shiny appearance, as you can see from this side angle. But what happens if you do the unthinkable and get water on it? What happens? Let's get water on it. Well, they say it's unthinkable. Okay, so many of you do-it-yourselfers will abide by the letter of the law on these products because you've never hung it. But I can tell you, as a person who hangs wallpaper 6 days a week, I can tell you that some of the manufacturers exaggerate. Now, am I saying that Phillip Jeffries is exaggerating here? No. So they say, do not get water on this product. Now, before we went on video, on a piece of this wall covering, I put water on it and saw no result. And it happens to be the paper you're looking at now. I put water up here. And that was a half an hour ago. Still no effect. What about glue? They say don't get glue on this. Let's try to get glue on it, as you might get glue on it. and you don't get it off right away, you notice it as you're installing it. Oh my gosh, I got glue on this product. What am I gonna do? La dee 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 dee. Not only did you get glue on it, but some idiot rubbed it into the product. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Okay, so you got glue on it. No stain. No stain. I'm using a clear strippable glue. Now, when the company starts paying me to advertise their glue, I'll tell you what glue I'm using, unless you ask me privately. And of course, anybody asking me on my YouTube channel is my friend. I will tell you. But I am not going to be advertising for a glue company that doesn't pay me to advertise for them. Right? Think about it. Okay. Going back to our sample piece on which we placed water, glue. You judge for yourself on whether or not that had a negative impact on the beauty of the veneer. I can tell you that on my sheet, it has had no effect whatsoever. So, all I could tell you from that is I wouldn't panic if I were you. If I got water or paste on the facade or the shell of this material. So we have our middle point, remember, on the wall. And you see in the center of your screen a pencil line, a vertical pencil line, over which I placed a laser line, which goes straight up and straight down from my Bosch laser level. My product is sufficiently tacky. Pay strict attention to the instructions on your product because they mean business when they tell you where to put the glue and how long to leave it. Pay strict attention to that because they've tried it and they know what's best for the particular product. Pay very close attention on where to put the glue, whether it's on the product or on the wall, and how long to leave it. I can tell you, this is one of the few products on the entire market that will tell you glue the product and wait till it sets up getting tacky. Okay? Most products that tell you to wait before the product gets tacky, before you hang it, are products that tell you to glue the wall. So pay very close attention, please. Let's hang it. The center of our product will be on the center of our wall. The laser will be on the center of the wall covering, therefore. Let's hang it. I don't see any negative impact from having gotten either water or glue on the product. But let's break another rule. They say when you smooth this product, make sure that you go with the grain of the texture. So this would be the green. But you forgot. And so you do it like this. Uh-oh. Looks like they know what they're talking about. Uh-oh. Looks like they know what they're talking about. By the way, check it out. Do you see that beautiful natural product in there? Do you see the tree? The plant from which this material comes? Look at that. Now, can you fix this? Of course. With a little glue. Watch this. Don't do it. Follow the directions, because you may wind up with something that looks like that. Okay? There's your test. Follow your directions on your Phillip Jeffries product. But I just showed you the effects on my product that I'm hanging today from having gotten water and glue on it. Don't panic. These regulations are written for edification, not necessarily for the letter of the law. Now for the edges, I suggest a neoprene roller for your edges, because this is not going to affect in any way the veneer. Paying close attention to and locking down your edges. Let's get on to the second sheet. Let me show you what this looks like from a distance. And so we're ready to hang to the left and to the right now. Let me just show you the process by which I apply the glue here. As you can see, this unique product has a ribbed texture, right? I mean, even the label of the product told us that it was textured. Now, as a new installer, or perhaps even a veteran installer, you might say, well, is the raised part, which would be this, and this, and that, is that supposed to be raised on the wall? And the answer is no. It's not. Let me prove it. This material and that material on this backing are the same thing. They absorb the glue. You have to wait until this tacks up. And guess what happens? This flattens out on the wall. Oh no, don't be deceived into thinking, is that the way it's supposed to be on the wall? No, 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 no. Right now, what you're looking at is a manifestation of the process by which they apply this hyacinth onto this backing. And so you can see that the backing is tight when they apply this. And so this piece and this piece are applied separately. But please don't think, well, I guess that's the way it's supposed to hang. You will have air pockets here if you think that you shouldn't press this down. I just don't want anybody who checks my video and says, oh, that's the way it's supposed to look. No, no, no. This is just revealing a certain effect of the manufacturer having put these strips all individually. This was put separately from this and that. And so when we put it up, you're right to think this is textured. Listen. But when it goes up, it's going to sound like this. All the same. And the way I apply my glue is simply with a paint roller. For this installation, I have a PasteMate 60-inch wide commercial wallpaper paster. I also have a residential 30-inch. It saves me a lot of time cleaning up a machine that I only used for a 3-hour installation. Now, if you want to wait for your glue to tack up, well, that's fine, but I want to show you the way that I accelerate the process of this glue tacking up. If you just flatten it out, you could do this with a sponge. Just flatten it out. It tends, when you rub it in, you reduce the time by, I would say, 1/2. So that's what I do. I push it in with my hands. Now I want to show you this wall covering before it goes onto this wall. You may have noticed that I have a very insignificant to the product texture on this wall. Very insignificant. In fact, if you look at our scrap, it does not affect the wall covering. This stuff is super thick. But in case you didn't believe me, let me show you how the wall covering looks before it goes on the wall. Let's take a look at it from a side angle. Look. It has its peaks and valleys, okay? You see this? Please don't attribute that to the texture. Okay, this is a natural product. Somebody actually put this together with their hands. See? Don't expect to flatten this out. You will ruin the facade. You can eliminate a lot of this, but not all of it. Let me prove it to you. Let's go over here. You see that? Now, when I touch this, you get the impression that it's almost thin leather. But don't be tempted to handle it like that. See? There's only so much that you can put friction on this, okay? Now, what I did here, I'll show you on a subsequent cut. Okay, first of all, you're probably saying, oh my gosh, it doesn't match up, Spencer. I ask you to refer to the diagram, and you'll see that this material does not meet up. Okay, please take a good look. You'll see right in the center of your screen, this piece does not meet up. Okay, so please understand that is not a function of a failure on my part. It's just the design. That's number one. But more importantly, what did I do here? Well, I wanted you to see the product first and then explain it to you as I did it. And that's why I did the glue and water test on this product. What you're looking at is the result of a double cut. Now, here's the deal. Phillip Jeffries says in the product, do not do a double cut, do a bench cut. Now, I can't stay here and tell you, don't follow Phillip Jeffries' directions. I can't say that because who knows what could happen today. But I can only tell you what I did. You understand what I'm saying? I put the product on the wall because I opted not to do a bench cut. A bench cut is when you trim the material on your table or your bench. And so it's called a bench cut. And so Phillip Jeffries was told by installers, we think it's best that they do a bench cut. But there's not an installer out there who's been doing this for years who will tell you that you absolutely must do a bench cut. I'm going to tell you why. What's the difference between a bench and a wall? One is horizontal and one is vertical. Isn't that the case? Okay. Now, there are accompanying factors that make that statement false. But essentially, that's the difference between a bench cut and a wall cut. Now, we tested the material, did we not? So let me tell you what I did. You see this laser line? I overlapped it 1 inch and I cut it at the 1/2 inch. So now my sheet is a 1/2 inch shorter on this piece and on this piece because I overlapped it 1 inch and I cut it in the middle. Now you tell me, you look at that cut. Now let me roll it, because we don't just leave it like that, right? Not too hard. We are mending this cut with a roller. Okay? One of the very few times I use a roller. I don't like using them, because look at the track marks it makes. Okay, then I gotta get them out. But this is one in which I will say you absolutely need to roll your seam. Because here's why. You have competing levels here. You see this lighter color here? Remember the back of the wall covering? One is raised, one is not. Well, this is the inverted one and this is the raised one. And so consequently, you have a differential in thresholds. You see that? And so you have to do your best to make your seams as unnoticeable as possible. Now, you will never get to match up the raised texture to the raised texture. It's just not the way this pattern is, okay? And secondly, you do not reverse these strips. You do not reverse the strips because it would affect the pattern. Watch this. You have chevrons here. Down, up, down, up. If you reversed it, you would have up, down, down, up. Right, so you don't reverse these. Your top is your top throughout. So I'm going to continue and then I'm going to show you a double cut and then we're just going to wrap it up by putting the rest of the sheets on. But I told you the essentials about this. As far as a professional is concerned, the caveats and the pros and some of the cons. So how did I achieve my double cut working alone on this Labor Day in the USA? My paper is tacking up. I'm not going to do a task like this without having first gotten the process of the glue soaking into the backing. So I come over here and I take 2 measurements. One is 1 inch from the edge and another is a 1/2 inch from the edge. Make believe this is my next sheet. My next sheet is going to overlap this sheet by 1 inch. Then I'm going to put a laser line over the 1/2 inch, which is where? It's right here. This is 1 inch, and I will pull my sheet all the way over to the inch, but I'm going to cut it in the middle to give me a 1/2 inch overlap. So that when I cut it, my full sheets that I'm joining are a 1/2 inch shorter in width than they were than when I first began. Okay? So essentially, each sheet will be trimmed how much? 1 inch. We trimmed it here a 1/2 inch. We're trimming it here a 1/2 inch. We're losing a full inch off of each sheet. If you tried to butt joint this to the next piece, you would have an ugly edge line, an ugly seam. What you want is this. That's your seam. And in this camera, can you tell the difference between this one and your cut seam? No, and you're not supposed to. So, do you understand? I'm going to put the next sheet up, overlapping. This is going to be called my underlap sheet. This is going to be my overlap. I'm going to overlap it 1 inch onto the next sheet. And I'm going to trim it at that secondary edge. And that'll only take a ½ inch off of the old sheet, right? And a ½ inch off of the new sheet. Let me show you. You remember we have 2 pieces of yellow tape underneath. This edge is 1 inch from here. It's a full inch. I did it so that I can easily mark out a ½ inch. This is my ½ inch from the edge to here. That's what I'm cutting off. This is going to stay right here. So I'm cutting off this. This yellow edge I transferred to this yellow edge. So here we have a ½ inch here. And it's the ½ inch from this edge, and I have a ½ inch from my overlap edge, right? And so we're going to cut down here. I certainly couldn't see the yellow tape, so I had to transfer the ½ inch mark onto the top. So now I transfer the ½ inch mark with a laser. Okay, I'm adjusting my laser, you see? Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so there's my ½ inch mark. Now I don't need the blue tape. See, I don't want you to get confused. So now, my laser line gives me a ½ inch from my overlap edge, right? So I have a ½ inch of my overlap that I'm cutting off, and a ½ inch of my underlap. And now, with a straight edge, I'm going to cut straight down, as you've seen me do on dozens of videos before, and I'm going to have an overlap waist and an underlap waist. Let's do it. Let's recap. My laser line is right over where I cut. So now I have an overlap waist. That's a ½ inch long. Okay. And so if I have a ½ inch overlap waist, I should have an underlap waist of ½ inch as well. Pull that off. I know it could get kind of complicated, trying to imagine everything I'm talking about. I like to show you up close so you understand what's going on here. Okay, now watch this. All we're doing now is joining our overlap and underlap. Come on, anybody, you can do this. Gentle, okay? Here's where technique comes in from the experience. Look, up, down, down. We're going according to those patterns that are natural products, right? We don't want to be too rough. And so, there you go. Oh, there's a little stubborn part. What's going on there? Add some more glue. Look how beautiful that is. Okay. Don't rush this when you're dealing with natural stuff. Don't rush it. You can really mess it up. Okay? Like, I'm not going to edit this out of the video. It's a little dry there. Okay? Let me just show you how I'm going to handle that. I don't want to put more glue in there. I want to try to get that glue to stick. I don't want it wet on the edge. And of course, what's happening? It's responding. Really what you're doing is you're moving some of the glue from here up. I'm going to clean that up, and that's our seam. And that's how you do your double cut on this special natural product from Phillip Jeffries. Now let's say you get torque in this product. What am I going to do with this? What's going on here? This is what I call moody wallpaper. Okay? And if we think we're going to get this out by simply going like this, boom, you're going to make a mistake. What do I do? Anybody have any suggestions? Anybody? How are we going to eradicate this? Somebody, please make a suggestion. Well, first of all, let's not think it over too much. When you think it over too much, you mess it up. Okay? I relieve that. Oh, it's relieved. You're gonna leave it like that? You can't just leave that like that. You can't just cut that. If I told you how many times I had to come up with solutions for which there are no directions, I would be a rich person. Okay, now, what are we gonna do? Careful now. Who says to leave it like that? Come on, the customer will never know. Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes, they will. New blade. Don't think too much. If you do, you'll mess it up. Okay. Now what did we just do? We did a double cut. That's what we did. We did a double cut. Why not? Who said you can't do it? Who says? You're the paper hanger. Guess what that makes you? The boss. makes you the boss. You're kidding me, Spencer? Who taught you how to do that? Well, guess what? If you don't learn how to do these things, no one's ever going to tell you how to do it. Why not? For one reason, it's a liability. If Phillip Jeffries were to tell you how to do this, it would incur a liability on them. All they want to do is sell you the product. They don't care how you get it up. They don't care. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to roll it. Had torque. It's moody paper. In other words, it doesn't want to stay plumb. What do I mean by that? This edge here is plumb, but evidenced by what we saw here, it's not conforming. There you have it. So, I'd appreciate it if you kept the secret between us and you didn't tell anybody. Okay? Of course, we're going to work out all of these little air pockets. If you see, they're working out already over here. So to do our double cut, like we did over there, we're going to put a 1/2 inch line from our edge, and then we'll put a laser line on this line so that when we overlap it and we block this, we'll know where to cut it, right? So you could say, well, Spencer, you really don't need the yellow one, right? It's true. I'm trying to demonstrate for you, the do-it-yourselfer, or maybe even the hanger who never really learned this. I'm simulating for you where my lines are going to be. So I'm going to now put my overlap on this, guided by a laser line that lines up with this blue edge, goes all the way up and all the way down. Again, now you see our laser line, right? It's on the right edge of the blue tape, and it goes all the way up and all the way down. That laser line is now going to be the point toward which I bring the left edge of my last sheet. And then, after it's all in place, I move the laser over 1/2 inch, which will be over this. And the same thing will happen up and down. And then I will cut over this line. If anybody doesn't understand this, I realize what I'm saying might be confusing. Okay? The blue one is going to tell me where to bring my sheet. Where it's touching the blue is going to be scrap anyway. But halfway between the blue right edge and the edge of our wallpaper to its right is going to be where I cut it, the midpoint between the blue edge here and this edge here, which is what? Right here. You see now, right? And so we're just going to make a nice straight line above this and cut through this. Okay, so let's do it. Does it matter what blade you cut your double cuts with? Here's an 18 millimeter. Here's a 9 millimeter. Who says I can cut it with either of these blades? These are all the same. This is a nice, stronger blade. When I cut through, you know it's not gonna snap. Well, if you said I could do it with this one, you'd be wrong. If you said these, you'd be right. Let's go over to our wall and explain why. Look at the thickness, left to right, of that blade. Look at that, right in the center of your screen there. Look at that. That puts a wider cut. It voids more of the wallpaper. So if you had a pattern here, well, you'd be voiding a lot more of that pattern. You want to use the thinnest blades possible. Okay, so I just cut through this, and I'm taking this away. And so now we have our underlap, right? See it? And lo and behold, it's right up against our yellow edge. See? See that? You may have a different way to do it. You know what? You may freehand it. I don't advise anybody to freehand it. I've seen messes that were freehanded. And I suggest that you don't treat this product in that way. By the way, that's a real lazy hand, if I may say so. Freehanding something and putting your product at risk of being this way, like, you know. That's lazy. If I saw that, I would not have that installer working for me. People aren't stupid. They check out the lines when you leave. Plus, what does it say for the installer who doesn't care about giving a crooked line? This is your best line right here. I mean, even if it were a little off, you tried. You went with a laser. This is hard to cut. You're going through these 2 layers of, it's thick product. And you got to keep changing the blade. I changed the blade 3 times the way down. All right, let me clean it up and be done with this seam.